Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video. This is Thousand Ant, where we give you Unity tutorials, devlogs, and indie game dev advice. My name is Matt Shell, and in this video, I want to talk a little bit about game design as a discipline. This is something that I'm personally trying to engage with right now, learn about, and get better at. And I thought I would share a little bit of my progress along with 3 books that I think are worth checking out. So welcome back. If you've been following the channel, you know I've been working on my untitled cute space game, got a little bit stuck, and what I've decided to do is to try to take a little bit of a kind of, for lack of a better term, disciplined or maybe more theoretical look at the fundamental game design of the game before I continue doing a lot more programming and development work. Now, I gotta say, this is a painful approach. I'm kind of sticking my hand in the fire here because I'm not good at game design. And I think this is an interesting point for us to talk about, because I think that when we think about getting into game development, a lot of us think that we're good at game design. Many people think it's like having ideas for fun games, right? And it seems a little softer, for lack of a better term, than for something like programming or creating 3D models or sprites, right? If you have any kind of self-awareness, you know you can't program. But a lot of people who know that they can't program do not know that they can't do game design, and that comes out of the fact that they love to play games, they played a lot of games, they probably got into game development because they had ideas about games and ideas for games, which is usually like, why don't we just take World of Warcraft and make it robots, right? That was one of my big ideas back in the day. Still want to make that game someday, right? When I get my $1 billion, I'll light it all on fire, making my super futuristic robot MMO. It's going to be a while. But the fact is that game design is actually a pretty difficult analytical, logical, technical discipline like programming that really takes hard skills to be good at. And I think a lot of people kind of leap their way in by copying. And I think this is a really solid approach in many ways. We definitely see this with kind of Renaissance painters, right? Copying the masters in order to absorb technique and then trying to kind of iterate on that and go further. And I think that we've seen that in the indie space, where we had a whole rash of games that were sort of copying the masters, being sort of Nintendo and other seminal games. And we would have, you know, for example, Super Meat Boy, who would copy the kind of core platforming ideas and then iterate, change relatively little, right? Not make big sweeping changes. It was more a change in the theme. And then obviously some kind of incremental changes in the mechanics. This is not to disrespect Meat Boy. It's a great game, and I'm actually a fan of Ed McMillan and his work. But we can see that there's a clear kind of iterative process going on there, whereas when we start to maybe try to attack a game design that is less iterative or more different or maybe less clearly grounded in something that we can directly copy from, a lot of us, aka me, really find ourselves out in the deep water, you know, with no life vest and no boat or anything, right? I just have really been facing the fact that I really do not know how to kind of do game design from first principles without just straight up copying something. And even in this case where I decided, hey, I want to do this idle genre and then make some tweaks, even still, I'm like, I actually really don't know how to do this, right? So one of the things I've been doing is hitting the books, right? And over the years, I've gotten a lot of requests of people be like, what's a good book to learn Unity? What's a good book to do this? What's a good book to do that? I think there is no good book to learn Unity. I mean, I know some people who've written books that are good, but Unity changes so fast, it's hard to write a book about it. But one book that I can recommend is this one. And we'll put up a picture of it. But this is Game Mechanics, Advanced Game Design by Ernest Adams and Joris Dormans. And Ernest Adams is a experienced game designer who's made a bunch of games in the industry. And then Joris Dormans, at the time of this writing, this is now a few years old, was at the time kind of primarily an academic. And he has then since gone on to release a interesting roguelike game called, I believe, Unexplored, which I played a little bit of and found very interesting. And actually his work on cyclical dungeon generation is very interesting. It was documented in another book, the Procedural Generation book. But what they put forward in this book is basically the first half is kind of a more theoretical approach to big picture game design. And then they get into this framework that Dormans has developed called MACHINATIONS. And MACHINATIONS is really basically a kind of a high-level visual programming toolkit that allows you to represent in-game economies, flows of resources, and the way that they think about games. Anything can be turned into a resource: time, health, not just things like money and experience points, right? Bullets, everything can be kind of represented by a resource. Obviously, some games are easier to break into these kind of components than others, those that are more kind of systemic and economy or resource oriented. But he kind of creates this graph language that allows you to represent and reason about these concepts in a rigorous way, which I think is really interesting and really worth looking at. And it's also worth mentioning that Dormans has actually now partnered with a team to create machinations.io, which is a web-based tool that allows you to edit these graphs and so on in the browser, save them. They've even got a Unity integration. I actually might do a video on it for the channel. Give me a signal, give me a like, give me a comment down below if you'd be interested to learn more about that. I think it's pretty interesting. It's also relatively dense, which is why I haven't done the video yet, but I think I might do it. So let me know if you'd be interested to see that. So I really recommend this, and I recommend checking out machinations.io as a companion to it. The other book, let me just make sure I get the title right here, is called Game Design Vocabulary: Exploring the Foundational Principles Behind Good Game Design. And this is co-written by Anthropy, who's a very interesting game designer herself, and Naomi Clark, who in recent years has been teaching at NYU and is also great, provocative, thoughtful designer. And I also recommend Anthropy's Rise of the Video Game Zinesters if you're interested in thinking about games as kind of expressive punk kind of artifacts. But this is really not that. It's really a very actionable, detailed framework for thinking about things like verbs in games and how to develop verbs over time, treating the verbs that a player has to do almost like characters in a narrative that would kind of develop over time, with the idea being that instead of doing a kind of a character development arc like you would in a linear narrative, you're going to do a kind of a verb development arc where the mechanics and the actions that the player can do are developed throughout the course of the game. I thought that was very, very interesting and useful to think about, and very quickly pointed me to the fact that, I was thinking about games that had no verb development, right? I kind of had one idea for a mechanic, and then there was nothing else that was going to kind of develop it or make it more interesting, right? And there's an example, right, of a kind of a design trap, right? You have a kind of a one-dimensional mechanic and you can't build a whole game around it, right? And this book gave me some great food for thought in thinking about escaping those kind of traps and thinking about developing mechanics and really thinking about games where the mechanics and the game design are really the star as opposed to the art or the story or what have you. The other one, the latest book that I have just grabbed and just started reading, and I have to say, I think I may come back and actually do like a full review on it later once I've kind of read it and digested it, because it's quite dense and theoretical. But so far, I find it absolutely exciting and thrilling, is Advanced Game Design by Michael Sellers. And the thing that kind of caused me to buy this, I was looking for new game design books that I hadn't read, and I saw that Ralph Koster, who wrote A Theory of Fun, wrote this very strong review for it on Amazon and said, this is a seminal work that's And I was like, whoa, okay. You know, I respect Ralph Koster a lot. And so if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. And he couldn't have been more right. It's a fascinating book that takes really the lens of systems thinking and really says systems thinking is a critical skill akin to literacy in the 21st century, and designing games and thinking about games is an absolutely brilliant, useful way to think about systems thinking and to engage with systems thinking, which I think is a terrific thesis. And really kind of, for me, this is the kind of game that I'm most interested in, these kind of systemic games that have kind of emergent properties where interesting, exciting things come out of mechanics that are unexpected. This is why I love kind of more traditional style roguelike games, stories like, you know, in Spelunky, where you can have a boomerang man who doesn't have a boomerang walk into a shop, find the boomerang that the shopkeeper is selling, pick it up, and then the shopkeeper goes crazy and starts shooting, right? And that was something that was never scripted. That's kind of a moment that came out just because the boomerang guy says, oh, a boomerang, and then the shopkeeper says, hey, you can't take things from my shop, right? It's a really, really cool example of those kind of interesting unscripted moments coming out of kind of systemic gameplay. So I'm actually just in the beginning of this, but already just the introduction where he just talks about some of the fundamental concepts of systems thinking just was like pew, 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 setting off fireworks for me. And so I'm just kind of working my way through it, digesting it slowly, really thinking about it and using it as a kind of a prompt as I'm thinking about design on my space game very, very slowly. It's brutal. Yeah, we're gonna have like 5 videos in a row being like, well, I'm still thinking about it. Hopefully not. Yeah, so those are 3 books that I can really highly recommend if you're interested in boning up on your game design skills. Of course, I will put some links below in the description so you can go and check those out directly. If you have books specifically about game design or even just about game development in general, please drop a comment down below and let me know. I'm sure there are some great ones that I've missed or new ones that have come out that I haven't seen yet. If you're not subscribed already, please do consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell so that you can be notified when new videos come out. We're releasing weekly is our goal. Drop a like on the video. It helps other people to discover the content, which we appreciate very much. And yeah, as always, just thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.